In this video, we're going to try and understand the limit of x over x as x heads towards 0. So when you first started out learning limits, it's unlikely you would know what this function would look like. So let's try and investigate. So let's try and sketch that graph. So let's try and sketch y equals x over x. So when x is 1, so this is your y-axis, this is your x-axis. When x is 1, 1 divided by 1 is 1. When x is 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And when x is 3, 3 divided by 3 is 1. So when x is negative 1 divided by negative 1, it will be 1. When x is negative 2 divided by negative 2, that will be 1. So your graph will look something like this. Well, dead on 0, it breaks down. You're not allowed to divide by 0. So dead on 0, it will break down. Dead on 0, it will break down. So your graph will look something like this. Hang on. So remember, dead on 0, it breaks down. So we would use this white dot here to represent that. Dead on 0, it breaks down. So your graph will look something like this. Your graph will look something like this. And remember, even if you select a weird number, let's say 0.2, or 0.2 divided by 0.2, it's still 1. Even if you zoom in to here, let's say negative 0.0007 divided by negative 0.0007, the two negative cancel each other out. It's still going to be 1. So even if you zoom in really close to 0, it will still be 1. It's just that dead on 0, it breaks down. So this function here will look like this. This function here will look like this. 1 is here, and dead on 0, it breaks down. So it will look like this. So what is the limit of this function as x heads towards 0? So you would put your pen nib here and head towards 0. As you're heading towards 0, from the left hand side, it's heading towards 1, and then from the put your pen nib here and then head towards 0. So here you can see that you're heading towards the same place. Even though dead on 0, it breaks down, but the idea behind the limit is where it's heading towards. It's actually heading towards a height of 1. So here the limit is 1. Remember, when it comes to limits, think about the height of the graph. The height represents a limit. So you're heading towards a height of 1. So the limit of this is 1. Okay. So if I were to give you this, hang on. If I were to give you this, what is the limit? What is the limit of x squared over x squared? Well, as x heads towards 0. If you can use the same argument. Suppose it's 3 here. 3 squared is 9, and divided by well, put the 3 into here, divided by 9 here. So that would still be 1. 1. So it turns out that everything will be defined except from dead on 0. Dead on 0. So your graph will look like this. So now what is the limit of this as x heads towards 0? So put your pen nib here and head towards 0. You can see that you're heading towards a height of 1. So the limit here is 1. Even if you have limit x to the power 3 over x to the power 3, the limit of this as x heads towards 0 will still be 1. Okay, so as it turns out, if I were to give you this, what is the limit of x to the power 5 divided by x to the power of 2, say, as x heads towards 0? Well, you can simplify this. You can simplify this to x to the power 3. So it will look something like this: x to the power 3. But remember, this is not exactly the same as this. It's not exactly the same. It's just for this thing here, dead on 0, it breaks down. For this thing here, it's defined all the way through, even at 0. So hang on. So when it comes to this, in your mind, picture this function. But just bear in mind that this thing here, dead on 0, it breaks down. So what is the limit of this thing as x heads towards 0? So put your pen nib here and then head towards 0. Heading to, as x heads towards 0, it's going to head towards this place. Put your pen nib here from the right hand side, approach 0 from the right hand side, you're heading towards the same place. So the limit here is actually 0. Okay, so when given this, you can imagine it as this, but just bear in mind that this thing here, dead on 0, it breaks down. But remember, the idea behind a limit is that we don't really care what happens dead on 0. We only care about where it's heading towards. You can see it's heading towards 0. So if I were to give you something like this, let's say, what is the limit of x to the power of 7 over x to the power of 5? Well, in your mind, simplify this thing as this, x squared. So this function here will look something like this. Remember, dead on 0, we know this is going to break down. So it will look like this, a quadratic, because of this. So what is the limit of this as x heads towards 0? So you can see that as x heads towards 0, you are heading towards, from the right hand side, you are heading towards 0. So the limit here is actually 0. Okay.